Welcome to your easy English listening practice. Today, we have a calm and relaxing story designed to help you understand English naturally. You don't need to study hard. You only need to listen. Let the words flow, and your brain will learn English automatically. Now, let's begin our 30-minute practice. This story is called A Morning That Changed Everything. It was early morning. The sun was just beginning to rise. The light touched the houses, the trees, and the quiet streets. In a small apartment, a young man named Daniel opened his eyes. He looked at the clock. It was 6 o'clock in the morning. Daniel usually woke up late, but today felt different. He sat up, stretched his arms, and looked outside the window. The sky was soft blue, and the birds were singing. He smiled. "Today will be a good day," he said quietly. Daniel walked to the kitchen. He made a cup of coffee and sat by the window. He liked mornings like this, quiet, peaceful, full of hope. He watched the people walking on the street. An old man was walking his dog. A woman was watering her plants. The city was waking up slowly. As Daniel drank his coffee, he remembered something. It was an important day. He had a job interview at 9 o'clock. It was his first real interview in months. He felt a little nervous, but also excited. He had been preparing for this moment for a long time. He finished his coffee, got dressed, and looked at himself in the mirror. He said softly, "You can do this. Just be calm. Just be yourself." Outside, the morning air was cool and fresh. Daniel started walking to the bus stop. The sound of the city began to grow. Cars, voices, footsteps. But Daniel felt calm. He took a deep breath and smiled again. While he was waiting for the bus, a little girl was standing next to him. She was holding a small red balloon. She looked at Daniel and smiled. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," Daniel replied. "That's a beautiful balloon." "Thank you," the girl said proudly. "It's my birthday today." Daniel laughed softly. "Happy birthday! How old are you?" "I'm 7," she said, holding up 7 fingers. Her mother smiled too. "She's been waiting all week for this day," she said kindly. The bus arrived and everyone got on. Daniel sat near the window. The little girl and her mother sat a few seats ahead. As the bus started to move, Daniel watched the city pass by. Shops opening, people buying bread, children going to school. Life was happening all around him, simple and beautiful. Then something happened. A man entered the bus and sat next to Daniel. He looked tired, maybe from working all night. He smiled weakly and said, "Morning." Daniel nodded. "Morning." The man looked out the window and sighed. "You know," he said, "every morning feels the same. Work, sleep, work again. It never ends." Daniel listened quietly. He could feel the man's sadness. Then Daniel said, "Maybe today will be different. Sometimes life changes when we least expect it." The man looked at him for a moment, then smiled a little. "Maybe you're right," he said. They rode in silence for a few minutes. Then Daniel's phone buzzed. It was a message from his friend Julia. She wrote, "Good luck today. You're going to do great." Daniel replied, "Thanks. I'll let you know how it goes." The bus stopped near a park. The man got off, waving goodbye. The little girl and her mother got off too, the red balloon floating above her head. Daniel watched them disappear into the park. He thought about how small moments, like a child's smile or a kind word, can change how we feel. The bus continued down the road. Daniel looked out at the buildings, the trees, the sky. He thought about his future. He didn't know what would happen today, but he decided to believe it would be something good. After 20 minutes, he arrived at his stop. He stood up, thanked the driver, and stepped out into the bright morning light. He was near the office where the interview would take place. He looked at his watch. 8:30. He still had time. He walked slowly toward the park across the street. There was a bench under a big tree. Daniel sat down, took a deep breath, and closed his eyes for a moment. He listened to the sounds, the birds, the wind, the laughter of children. He felt peaceful. He whispered to himself, "Everything will be fine." And as he sat there, something unexpected began to happen. As Daniel sat on the bench, he heard a soft sound. It was a small voice behind him. "Excuse me, sir," the voice said. He turned around and saw a young boy holding a notebook. "Could you help me?" the boy asked shyly. Daniel smiled. "Of course. What do you need?" The boy looked nervous. "I have to write a story for school, but I don't know how to start." Daniel laughed gently. Ah, stories are wonderful things. You just need one idea. He looked around. The park was full of life. Birds singing, children playing, leaves moving with the wind. He said, "Look around you. What do you see?" The boy looked and said, "I see people, trees, and dogs." Daniel nodded. "Good. Now, what if one of those dogs could talk?" The boy's eyes opened wide. "That would be funny." "Exactly," Daniel said. "Every story starts with imagination." The boy smiled, thanked him, and ran back to his friends. Daniel watched him go and thought, even small things can inspire someone. He checked his watch again. It was almost 9 o'clock. Time to go. He stood up, straightened his jacket, and started walking toward the office building across the street. His heart was beating faster now. He entered the tall glass doors and walked to the reception desk. "Good morning," said the woman at the counter. "Do you have an appointment?" "Yes," Daniel replied. "I'm here for the interview with Mr. Collins." She smiled kindly. "Please take the elevator to the 5th floor. They're expecting you." As he stepped into the elevator, he felt a mix of excitement and fear. He looked at his reflection in the mirror inside. He whispered again, "You can do this." The elevator doors opened with a soft sound. A man in a suit was waiting. "Daniel, right? Nice to meet you. I'm Mark Collins." They shook hands. "Please, come with me," the man said, leading him into a quiet meeting room. The room had big windows and a view of the city. Daniel sat down carefully. Mr. Collins smiled and said, "So, Daniel, tell me a little about yourself." Daniel took a deep breath. He began slowly. "Well, I'm a person who believes in learning from every experience. I studied communication, and I love working with people. I think good work comes from kindness and creativity." Mr. Collins nodded. "Interesting. And why do you want to work with us?" Daniel thought for a moment. "Because your company helps people grow," he said. "I've read about your projects. You create opportunities for people to learn, and I want to be part of that." The interviewer smiled. "Very good answer, Daniel," he said. "We value that kind of attitude." For the next 30 minutes, they talked about Daniel's skills, his past jobs, and his goals. Sometimes Daniel hesitated,
looking for the right words, but he stayed calm and spoke with honesty. At the end of the interview, Mr. Collins stood up and said, "Thank you, Daniel. We will contact you soon." Daniel smiled, shook his hand, and said, "Thank you for the opportunity."
As he left the office, Daniel felt light, almost happy. He didn't know if he would get the job, but he knew he had done his best, and that was enough. Outside, the sky was bright and blue. He decided to walk back instead of taking the bus. He walked through the same park from earlier and saw the little girl with the red balloon again. This time, she was sitting on the grass, the balloon tied to her wrist. She looked up and waved. "Hi again!" Daniel smiled and waved back. "How's your birthday going?" "Great," she said. "I ate cake and I got a new book." "That's wonderful," Daniel said. The girl looked at him for a second and asked, "Did your day go well too?" Daniel laughed softly. "Yes, it did. Better than I thought." The girl grinned. "Then it's a lucky day for both of us." Daniel nodded. "Yes, I think it is."
He continued walking, feeling the warm sun on his face. Every small thing, a smile, a short talk, a helping hand, had made this ordinary morning feel special. He realized something important. Sometimes life doesn't change in one big moment. It changes slowly, quietly, through simple acts of kindness. As he crossed the street, a cool wind passed by. He closed his eyes and let it touch his face. He felt calm, grateful, and alive. He thought, maybe today wasn't just another day. Maybe it was the beginning of something new. He smiled, and with that thought, he kept walking toward the city, ready for whatever would come next.
As the day went on, Daniel felt a quiet peace inside him. He walked through the city, hearing the sounds of life all around. Cars moving, people laughing, children running. Everything felt more alive, more meaningful. He stopped at a small coffee near the corner. The smell of coffee filled the air. He ordered a cup and sat by the window, watching people pass by. It was one of his favorite things to do, to sit, to observe, and to think. He remembered the little girl, the boy with the notebook, and the kindness of the woman at the reception. Each one of them had touched his day in a small way. And maybe, he thought, he had touched theirs too. As he sipped his coffee, Daniel opened his phone and saw a new message. It was from an unknown number. He hesitated for a moment, then opened it. "Hello, Daniel. This is Mark Collins. I just wanted to say, we were very impressed with your interview. We would like to offer you the position. Please confirm if you can start on Monday." Daniel stared at the message for a few seconds. Then he smiled. A long, deep, thankful smile. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." He didn't shout or jump. He just sat there, letting the joy grow quietly inside his heart. It wasn't just about getting the job. It was about believing in himself again. For months, Daniel had felt lost. He had doubted his skills, his purpose, his path. But today, something had changed. Not only because of the job offer, but because he had chosen to see beauty in small things again. He paid for his coffee, left a small tip, and walked out of the coffee with a lighter step. The sky was beginning to turn orange as the sun moved down. The air smelled like rain and hope. On his way home, he stopped by a bookstore. Inside, he found shelves full of stories. Stories of adventure, love, learning, and courage. He smiled. "Maybe I'll start a new story too," he said to himself. He picked a small blue notebook from the shelf. It was simple, with clean white pages and no title. He bought it and slipped it into his bag. That evening, he sat by his window, the city lights shining outside. He opened the notebook and began to write. "Day 1, he wrote. "Today, I remembered how beautiful life can be. Not because everything went perfectly, but because I paid attention." He continued, "I learned that courage is not always loud. Sometimes courage is just getting up, showing up, and doing your best, even when you're afraid." He smiled as he wrote those words. Outside, a light rain began to fall. The sound was soft and peaceful. Daniel looked at the notebook and whispered, "This is the beginning of something new." He placed the notebook on the table and looked out the window. He could see people walking under umbrellas, lights reflecting on the wet streets. It all looked so calm, so alive. He realized that life doesn't need to be perfect to be beautiful. It just needs to be lived, fully, honestly, one day at a time. Daniel leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. He took a deep breath and let it out slowly. He felt grateful, not for what he had, but for what he had finally understood. Sometimes the biggest lessons come from the smallest moments. A smile from a stranger, a few kind words, a simple walk through the park.
He thought about tomorrow, about his new job, his new start, and the new people he would meet. And for the first time in a long time, he didn't feel afraid of the future. He felt ready. He whispered softly, "Tomorrow will be a good day." He stood up, turned off the light, and went to bed. As he closed his eyes, the rain kept falling gently outside, like a song that only he could hear. And somewhere in the quiet of that night, Daniel dreamed, not of success or money or fame, but of a life filled with meaning, one simple, beautiful day at a time.